Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to come and just share a little bit about Servants and what we do and the work that we hope to do here in Columbia. So we've been a part of the Columbia Connections group for the last couple of years, and so some of you might have heard us speak there. But Servants is a local nonprofit. We're based in Red Line, Pennsylvania, but we serve in 3 counties, Adams, York, and Lancaster County. We've been working in York County since about 2007, and just started working in Lancaster County in the last couple of years. And what we do is, so we're a nonprofit. We utilize volunteers to help us do home repair and maintenance work for people with disabilities, older adults, and all the people that we serve are disadvantaged. They're not able to pay for the work. They're not able to hire contractors or do the work themselves. And so we do this for free. It's a free service. We ask homeowners if they're able to help pay for materials to do so, but only about 10% of our homeowners are able to contribute anything. It's a very small percentage. And so we utilize volunteer labor and a lot of donated materials, and some materials we raise funds for to be able to purchase. But we work all across Lancaster County, but one of our focus areas is here on the western side in Columbia, and so we've been doing a lot of work here locally lately. And so we do a lot of wheelchair ramps, bathroom modification work, repairing floors, water damage, anything like that that is causing an unsafe or an unsanitary situation for homeowners. So just wanted to share a little bit tonight and just give you the opportunity to know what we're doing, and we appreciate any support as far as volunteers. That we're always looking for more volunteers to help us with the work that we're doing, and I just wanted to help get the word out. So.
Trent, would you please give the dates of the workshop?
Yes, we have a work camp coming up here in Lancaster County. And it's towards the end of this month, and I'm trying to remember on my calendar. It's, let's see, today's this. So it's the 26th, 27th, 28th, I believe. It's on our website. I forgot to check that right before I came in. But we're doing a 3-day work camp. But we work every Tuesday, Thursday, and most Saturdays in Lancaster County. We usually rotate from the east side to the west side. So every couple of weeks we'll work on the west side, a couple of weeks we work on the east side, just to try to meet all the demand for the work that we do.
Trent, as I understand it, in my conversation with you and with the Columbia Connections meetings, you have some staff that helps guide volunteers, correct? It's not like volunteers are just...
Right. Yeah, we have construction managers that experienced in residential construction, and they oversee all the projects. So they do the assessments, vet the homeowners, plan the projects out, purchase the materials, and then the volunteers come on the work days, and they're supervised in the work that they do. Yeah.
And when you come for a work day in a community, do you already know who you're going to go to, or? Okay.
Yes. So yeah, we have a waiting list. And so we plan it out usually weeks in advance, so we know the homeowner is going to be present and available that day to do the work.
And how do people go about getting on that?
So they just have to call the office. So our phone number is 717-378-0336. It's also on our website. People find us through that. So we get most of our referrals come through senior centers, churches, Area Agency on Aging.
Trent, now if I understand, your volunteer base, if there's a project, you will call volunteers. If the volunteer is available, they'll say, yes, I can make it, but if they can't make it, that's fine. Then they can make it the next time. It's not like they're obligated to
Right.
do so many projects. It's
Yeah,
like,
the way-
if you're available, if you feel like doing some work, come out and help somebody.
Yeah, the way our volunteers work, they either sign up one of 2 ways. They put themselves on a Tuesday, Thursday list, and we just let everybody know, hey, this Tuesday we're working in this area. We send an email out, and whoever's available, they sign up and show up to work. Or groups will contact us and say, hey, we have a group from our church or a group from a business, and we want to work on a Saturday or a Friday, and we'll sign up a whole group at a time that way as well.
Well, Columbia is rich with volunteers. We always hear talk about groups volunteering, and we do have a lot of groups that volunteer. So hopefully, when folks hear this, the re- the recording of the meeting here tonight, or information that we'll put out later on, that they'll sign up, and we'll get some volunteers here out of Columbia who will volunteer some time to help some of those less fortunate,
All right,
to fix up their homes and keep them in their homes.
thanks. Again, our volunteer application's on our website. That's the easiest way to sign up. And the work camp information's also out there. And that's just servants.org is the website. All right. Thanks again for your time. Appreciate it.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have Mayor Lutz.
Yeah, just add a little bit to that. This is something we talked about for years here in Columbia Borough. Folks would come into codes, looking, knowing that they had a notice of violation, and saying, I can't afford to fix that piece of concrete, or fix those steps, whatever have you. And we had nowhere to send them, and we tried to, through the local churches and things, we tried to get folks help. Here's an organization now that wants, coming into Columbia, that offers this service. So I think it really does something to fill that void that we have here in town. I remember a lady down on Walnut Street. She needed to replace one block of her concrete, and she didn't have the money for it. She went to the bank to get a loan, and the loan officer said, you have to take a minimum $5,000 loan. She said, I don't need $5,000, and I'll be paying on $5,000. Well, luckily, we found someone who would replace the concrete for her, but that's what this organization is able to prevent. With that, I have no other information.
All right. Workshop item, discussion on handicap parking in the borough. Admittedly, I am not sure what we are discussing here, so.
Okay, I'll jump in then, because I received a question from a resident asking about handicap parking and expressing some dissatisfaction at the way we handle it, some of which I felt was probably either local, state, or federal, like, I didn't know which, but I didn't think it solely rested with us. So the placards and so forth, I think anyone that has a handicap plate or placard can park in any space. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I can tell. So in 2019, well, let me just start. Prior to 2019, if someone wanted a handicapped space placed in front of their home for whatever, whatever reason, they were able to come into the local municipality, ask for that. But that space was not in any way, shape, or form reserved for them, right? So if someone had a handicap, if you went in and asked for a handicap space in front of your house and received that and a sign was put up, it was not tied to you in any way. So if someone else with a handicap placard parked there, there really wasn't anything you could do.
Right.
In 2019, the state changed the law, which is in Title 75, which is the vehicle code in Pennsylvania, and it allowed municipalities to assign that to a certain address or to a certain license plate number, some type of identifier that would allow that person to kind of reserve that handicap space. That is possible.
Oh, okay, 207-11. And that one met, the reason I brought that one up is because when I looked at that, and I could still be mixing these two up, but when I studied that, it looks like it refers to the Public Safety Committee making some decisions. So if they're making decisions on the parking lot, you're saying, or not the spaces in front of their homes?
In the zoning ordinance, so many parking spaces require X amount of them to be handicapped,
Okay,
and that's on private property. And that falls, enforcement of that falls to the owner.
okay. If it's a private parking lot, you
Yes.
mean? Okay. So,
Yeah, I mean, what you're looking at, so 207-11 gives that the authority to establish handicap parking spaces kind of wherever, to the Public Safety Committee, which obviously doesn't exist
okay, so
anymore.
you're saying we do not have a Public Safety Committee, so shouldn't those words be changed?
They probably should.
So
Yes.
I can tell you, Sharon, one of my frustrations with our current ordinance is when the borough did away with the committee structure, that language was not scrubbed from the ordinance
Okay.
in its
And-
entirety.
and I would
So
say
Anywhere.
all of your code,
Okay.
really. It's
It-
Not
throughout.
just parking,
Yeah.
not
Correct.
just
So it talks
handicap?
about all the
Yeah.
committees are still in there. So at some point, we should probably look at getting them all out, but that is a lot of work to go through and
Well, I
remove all
thought
of
it
that
would
from
be,
the code.
yeah.
But that's why, it just never got removed.
Okay.
Yep.
So it says somewhere in here that the fee for renewal was $10. Is that correct?
It is.
The.
It says
You
in the
have it
code.
20 in, yeah.
It's based on the adopted fee schedule. The application fee is $100. And
Right.
there's a $20 renewal fee.
Oh, 20, okay.
Yes.
So that also would need corrected, I guess, in the code then, if it's saying 10.
If it is, absolutely. I mean, that's, right now, when we're drafting ordinances, that's why we don't put dollar amounts in there.
Okay.
We just refer to the fee resolution, because,
Yeah.
yeah, in order to change that, we'll have to do an ordinance amending thing, so.
So yeah, it does say 10 on
What section is that?
207-91,
Dash 91.
under that, under A,
Okay.
it says renewal fee of $10.
Oh, okay. So, what actually, I think we're okay there, because it says the fee may be modified from time to time by
Oh, so
resolution
we're
of
okay to
Borough
just,
Council.
okay.
Yep,
All
yep.
right. So, and the other question I had then was, if we are able to change that, is that something then that council could vote to change? Because I know you said there's 102 spaces, right? Private.
Yes, currently we
spaces.
have 102 applications that are active right now
Okay.
under our renewal process, that were renewed and are active right now.
Okay. And my other question is, I didn't see, and I could have missed them, any in the 100 block, other than in the lot you had said. The bottom of Locust has 2. And when I looked, I couldn't see them because there were no signs, but they were painted on, I guess.
Yeah.
And they were faded, but there was also people parked there that were not displaying handicap. So I didn't really know that they were there.
And you know what, when I drove around all the lots too to look at them all, and I realized, and Jake, I apologize, I should have gotten it to you, we need to get those remarked and then re-signed.
It would be helpful, I think, to have a sign because it was a little
It's hard to
difficult
enforce
see.
that, and if an officer went out there to enforce a handicap parking violation and the
Right. and
thing
it
is
could-
visible barely and there's no
Yeah.
signage, then that's probably not gonna help us,
No.
so we need to get that redone.
Yeah, I don't see how you could win that
No, I don't
one.
either. We need
That
to
would
get
be,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I didn't see, and correct me if I'm wrong, I didn't see any handicap spaces in the 100 or 200 blocks
On
of
street?
Locust. Handicapped like on the street, on those 2
I
blocks.
don't think there are anything.
Do we, like with the downtown and people coming in, I think there's only one in this block, right? Or,
One right out front here,
Yeah.
yeah.
and then there's some church signs, but that's Sundays only, right? For the handicap, the church ones are
We
Sunday only.
haven't designated a lot of on-street parking for the public as handicap parking.
Is that something we should be looking at?
We can, absolutely.
I saw in here too something interesting. I think it was in here, if I'm remembering that part right. The parking for handicap, like if they park at a meter, they get 1 hour free, is that true?
That's a state law.
A state
They
law,
get
but that
the
would
first
apply
hour's free.
here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
That's one of the reasons why we never did it.
Put extra in.
Put extra in,
Okay.
plus the municipal lot, the 2 municipal lots have handicap parking spaces reserved to them. So the lot out here is right basically in the center of town, so it's very,
Okay.
very accessible.
I just wasn't aware of that till I found that in there, that, because even my parents have a handicap placard, and I don't even think they have any idea they can park at a meter for an hour for free,
Yep.
so.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a lot of people know that, to be
Yeah,
honest with
I
you.
didn't, I was sort of surprised. But anyway, so,
Well, how do you even, like,
How do you regulate that?
yeah,
I don't know. Unless they're chalking tires and I know exactly when they started and stopped, but honestly, that's not a, from my perspective, that's not a big concern.
okay.
I know, I was just thinking out loud, like.
Yeah, I don't know how you know
think-
exactly how long they're
I think the
there.
parking enforcement officers, if they see the placard,
Yeah, just,
they're not gonna start running a stopwatch.
Right.
They see a placard. Sharon, this is a good conversation. I've dealt with this for 20-some years. We even talked about several times, we talked about going to permit parking. But one thing if council chooses to do this, which I'm in favor of, we're gonna have to identify by number the placard and the sign,
Yes.
Yeah,
okay?
There's additional costs
Yeah.
to that. Yeah.
So-
Okay.
So there'll be a cost to that, because we're gonna have to replace all the signs, or put a tag underneath it, like the 4-way stop sign, the little tag, or the street
correct.
sweeping tag.
I think we just add that panel underneath the existing ones, but
Yeah.
they're still $20 each just to get the panel.
Yeah, that 6x12 panels like $17.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you would make the handicap placard numeric. That's something you'd have to explore.
I mean, I think, so what I've seen in other places that they have done is, handicap parking only, and then for the exclusive use of, 308 Locust Street, or whatever the address may be, or something like that, or by a license plate number.
Yeah, that's how I've seen it done, is when they put that placard underneath, they put the actual license plate
yep.
number.
Or the placard, I mean, placards are numbered too, so you can put the placard number or the plate number. And
Okay.
then only, the advantage of that is, especially if they have the placard, is that can go on any vehicle.
Right.
So whichever vehicle is carrying the handicapped person, you can put that in your rearview mirror and you can legally park there.
Could we maybe make it optional? If you want the exclusive use of that space, you bear the cost of that additional placard to identify it as your space.
Here's my concern, is that we currently charge a homeowner $100 to get a sign in front of their house
Right.
that reserves a space for them, for use because they have a physical
That's true.
disability. I don't know, I mean, we're not recovering our full cost, I think it costs us more than $100 to put that placard up. We still get a $20 fee every year to renew that application. If that placard's up 3-4 years, we're not losing money, and that person has exclusive use of the space, and I feel the frustration of these people, they paid for a sign, and then right now, anyone can park there. If it's gonna be a sign that I personally paid for, and I can't use that spot, I'd be frustrated. But fortunately, the law just changed in 19 that we can do that. So I would say, if we want to go out and get the placards and put them underneath with the registration on it, and then if someone else who's handicapped is parked in that spot, get ready for this, we could cite them for not parking in the right spot.
Yeah, that's,
And that's going to create its own
That's gonna-
issues,
yeah,
but if
that's
that's where we
gonna-
want to go, we can do that.
But I'm thinking, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but I'm thinking that you're probably not going to get so many handicapped people as you are people that are not handicapped using the space.
Yeah.
I would certainly
There's only
think.
so much you can do about that though,
Yeah.
right? I mean, obviously the enforcement, you've gotta be out there, but it's hard to, yeah.
Well, and I mean, even now, if someone non-handicapped is parked there,
They
you
can be-
call the police, they can be cited
Yeah,
anyway.
that's, and that's not a cheap ticket when you
No,
do
it's
that
not.
anywhere, so.
But I meant, I think we'd have more of an issue with the non-handicap parking than we would handicap people
hand-
coming in and
yep.
taking that space. I just,
Yep.
you
Right,
know,
yep.
I
I
agree.
just think it would be more
Yep.
apt to be the other
Yep.
way.
Especially in the residential areas, you would expect if someone, you know, the word of something like this spreads relatively quickly, if you can get a reserved space outside of your house. I think you'll, you know, if somebody is parking in another person's spot, I think pretty quickly you can say, hey, if you're, you know, living down the street and you need a handicap spot, just come on in and we'll take care of you, you know?
Well, I just feel like it was a good discussion to have because I certainly didn't know a lot about this ordinance, and I certainly didn't know about the change in 2019, so thank you for that, Evan, that
There is
explanation.
there is another piece to this. Our ordinance, if I remember our ordinance correctly, you have to be the owner of the vehicle in order to get a handicap sign. So
No. You
that's
have
what
to
our
be-
ordinance says.
Um,
When
It-
we only gave handicap signs to people who had a driver's license and a vehicle.
or if they have a passenger who is.
No,
of
that's not
need.
the way we did it. It was only,
Proof of ownership of a vehicle by the applicant or the resident for whom the handicap parking space is requested, along with
Bingo.
the make, model, and license plate number of each vehicle, of such vehicle.
yes.
I don't know how to,
Yeah, okay. I can tell you that our current ordinance says these are guidelines and that we have the authority to do that. I have issued a handicap parking permit to, Jake, I forget what street they were on. The son was severely handicapped and doesn't own a vehicle, will never drive a vehicle, but the family has a handicap placard they can use. And I felt like that was being the spirit and intent of the law,
Yeah.
that family and a resident who lives in that building is the one who has the need. Because not all handicapped people are able to drive.
I would certainly agree. I have not seen that in any of another ordinance about handicap parking that you have to be, I have not seen that.
I guess what I was saying,
We have granted, we have waived that issue several times. There was one up on Ridge Avenue, Blanket, is a son or daughter of a handicapped person could have the placard and be parking there all the time. And that's not the intent. In other words, every time they pull up to mom's house, they go and get the placard and hang it up. That's not the intent.
correct.
And they're visiting, they're not there for transporting.
Yeah, we had a situation too where someone was coming and visiting on a regular basis, a family member, and they wanted a handicap spot in front of the house so this other family member could park there when they come visit. Sorry, no, that doesn't meet the intent, my mind didn't meet the intent of the ordinance.
So, do we need to change our ordinance at all? Or can we just make changes? Or can we just,
I think, given that we've now seen that, right, there's some contradictory language where you have the Public Safety Committee that has the discretion, and then in 207-90, it, you know, it gives the discretion solely and absolutely to the borough manager, right? So that's
Yeah.
the first problem,
Yeah.
right? And not to mention that the Public Safety Committee doesn't exist anymore, so that language probably needs to be changed. Other than that, I think if you wanted to add language regarding having kind of more of a reserve spot, that would not be too hard to add in here. If that's what the direction you guys wanted to go. And we've done that in a number of other municipalities.
That's only fair, just like Sharon said, the lady that called her. If I'm paying $100 for a sign plus $20 a year, I would almost feel that that's my handicap spot.
I don't disagree with you.
But yet, you know, and this is something that the police been dealing with as long as I've been around here. We get calls, someone's parking in my handicap spot, Go up and take a look, they have a handicap placard hanging. And there are neighbors that move in to the neighborhood sometimes, and, and a lot of times, in all honesty, they think that's just a handicap spot that the borough put there for anybody that's handicapped. And they park in there, and here the other poor son of a gun is, who's paying the money, don't get to park there. So I think that needs to be verified.
Yep.
Evan, how's it going in those municipalities that have done this? Do they have problems with it, or is it?
They have not.
Okay.
I think it's gone pretty smoothly. I think it helps, honestly, it helps prevent some conflict when everybody kind of has their own spot. You know, nobody's getting mad at each other because someone has taken their handicap spot. And in most cases, you guys have, what, you said 102? You don't have that many of these in comparison to the number of on-street parking spaces that you have. And so it's such a small subset of the population. And, you know, most of mine that have done this, what they'll say, there's something in there that says, if you move out and you no longer reside at that place, then you've got to kind of turn it back in.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
I think
that
that's
seems
probably
fair,
in
yeah.
yours already, but, you know, that's an important part of
Yeah,
this
that
as well.
makes
But
sense.
I think it's gone relatively well from what I know in those places that have adopted that change since 2019.
Would council have to vote for that change?
Absolutely, yeah, that would be an ordinance amendment that we would
Okay.
have to, yep.
So
Yep.
can you work on the ordinance
Yep.
changes that are needed?
Yep.
And bring them back
Of course, yep.
for future meeting?
Thank you.
My turn.
Hold on, let me see.
You're gonna need to set the clock, it's gonna go long. I'm sure this isn't gonna go over well. But I think there's too many handicap parking spaces in Columbia, number one. Number two, if this is the route we're going, then I like 2 of them for $40 a year to have front row parking. It's ridiculous.
So ordinance does say only one per residence,
All right?
so.
So I'll take one then. I
Right.
mean, if everybody, because anybody can go to the doctors and get a handicap.
I don't think anybody can.
Oh.
If a doctor is on the up and up, he's not going to give you one if you don't have a proper diagnosis. Didn't it say in there they have to present all that?
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
And that is followed up every year? Because
No,
I know people get them for like major surgeries, and then they're healed from it.
The only follow-up is we send out a renewal letter and we ask if you still need your space and they say yes, but we don't
Heck,
ask
yeah,
for
who's
continuing.
gonna turn it in?
Correct, but we have had people say, no, it was temporary, I had an operation, I needed it, I no longer need it, and then we go out and take the sign down. But could there be abuse? Sure.
The second thing is, I think $20 is cheap. To have guaranteed front row parking in your house for $20. They don't maintain the streets, whether it's snow removal, whether it's street sweeping, whatever. They have nothing to do with the street except for a reserved spot. And for $20, I think that's way cheap.
Well, and I do have to say this, though. I think it should be cheap, because a lot of handicapped people probably do not work full-time and may not have, maybe they're on disability. I mean, should we punish them for being handicapped? I'm not in favor of that, so I don't know. I think 20 is high enough. But anyway.
Secondly, thirdly, whatever.
This is fourth, you're up to fourth.
Fourth. Handicap parking, and I talked to Jake about this already. It seems odd to me that if I come in here and I'm in the middle of a block somewhere, long or short, and I say, I qualify for a parking placard, okay? It gets put out in front of my house. By doing that, I could screw up all parking up and down the street. It does, all the time. Shouldn't we set a standard? If we know the regulation for parking, front to back, because we talked about putting stripes on the streets already. So if we know that length, it should go from a designated area at the beginning of the block and go up. And if that falls half a space away from the house, so be it. but we screw up parking all the time because right in front of their house, they get a parking placard.
We had an issue
the
quite a few
problem
years
is-
ago on Fifth Street, South Fifth Street, where the people insisted that the handicap spot be dead in front of their house. But their house wasn't as wide as the 20 or 22-foot parking area. And so there was a common alley way between the two homes. And we had to go up there and measure and try to convince that homeowner that it had to be here. It was only a few feet. It had to be here so that it didn't screw up parking for the rest of the half block.
Right. I mean, I know, Jake, you do take that into consideration somewhat, but, I mean, I know my block on both sides of the street, parking is all screwed up now.
People park tighter though than the regulation. So like if we were gonna come out and say, we'll market it per regulation on a street like 8th Street, if we were gonna,
Spaces.
We would
if
do
we were gonna mark the
spaces.
spaces, we would
I
lose
get that.
spaces. So you
I get
can't,
that, but there's
if you
gotta
do the math, you have to do 8th Street math, right? So for the crew, you know what I mean? Like, they're packed in there as tight as they can get. So like, here and or there, you kinda have to figure out if the next 3 homeowners have pickups that are full-length beds, you know, then you need the full space, but if they're all driving little Kias or something, they've got 5 cars in there.
We did a study on South 8th Street and found out we lost parking spaces.
Yep.
Oh, I believe that, I'm not saying you don't.
And we did the study on Perry too.
I don't disagree with you, but the question is, how do you set the standard with that in mind? Because it's gonna be, if you go by the standard, it's not gonna be any different, really.
So then the other thought I had, was why not put 4 handicap park?
No, I said this is your fifth.
Why not put, I thought you were telling me 5 minutes.
No, this is your fifth point.
What was
Because
your
I'm
point?
okay with that. Put 4 handicap spots on every block. 2 at the bottom of the street, 2 at the front, top of the
I
street.
think the ordinance does leave the discretion up to the borough as to how many can be in a block.
Yep. Yeah, the manager has that discretion, yeah.
Well,
But-
I'm sorry, hold on a second, I'm sorry. I don't agree with discretion. It
Well-
should be a black and white.
There's a, 9-factor test in here for the review.
And that, he told us already, he overrode it because it says for the owner of the car, and yet the kid can't drive. So he overrode that. So, I'm not one for discretion, it should be black and white, and that's how it's followed.
The standard we used to have years ago was 3.
Okay,
Read all
anyway, I
that.
mean, I don't disagree with what you did,
Right.
I'm just saying,
Right, then it should be codified.
I was gonna say, then
It
you
should
need
be
to change the
codified that
ordinance
way.
because the way it's
The
written
ordinance
right
gives
now.
discretion, so-
yeah.
That's how,
remember-
you're right,
Remember when it was like 3 to a block, anybody on that block could use them 3.
right.
right. That's what I'm saying now. I mean, we're going
Well,
block by block.
now
making-
you're getting close to permit parking, which
That's
is what
we
the city
should do.
does.
We're going block to block, making everything ADA compliant, the corners and stuff. So if we put handicap spaces like at the end, the beginning of the street or whatever, they're designated for anybody.
But what happens if you live, as
middle
a
of the
handicapped
block.
person, you live in the middle of the block? It doesn't do you a whole lot of good.
Yeah.
That's why you have the individual spaces. I mean, that's the reasoning.
Just about every block in Columbia, well, cross streets have an alley. So you bring it in a half block.
Well, I agree with what Mark did with the discretion, because I think handicapped issues can be more individual.
Right.
And I just think it's a case-by-case kind of basis on how the family, I mean, you said about people pulling in that care for people. Well, that's a little different, I think, in a way, because like what you described, sounds like everybody's living in that house, the caretaker and it's not like somebody's coming in to take care of them. So it just seems to me that we do have to have some discretion with regard to that.
Or put that in the code, is what Eric was saying.
Right, that's, yeah, I mean, you put the discretion in to
Put the
codify it.
exemption
Yep.
in the code, not the, he's
So that
saying,
people
take the
know-
discretion out and put the exception in.
Right.
Jake, how often do we paint lines on those spots
When, as needed.
as needed?
Yeah. They don't always last forever, so
Mhm.
sometimes people call in, or if we see them when we're out and about, we'll do them.
Yeah. One thought I had was if there are people parking in them, how often is it just unintentional in the sense that, you know, you kind of see a sign in their peripheral, but there's a lot of signs along the street, but don't see the lines. And I don't know in this case if the lines are clear or not anymore, that there were 3
Oh, I think,
in a short time. So anyways,
That's an issue, Pete.
is
Good-
it something
that's a
that
good
we
statement.
we
It's an
put
issue.
into the code that we mark those lines every 2 years or something? Or to get them fresh and shiny?
I wish the chief was here, he'd tell you how many times he gets calls about someone whose back wheels or front wheels are over the line.
I see that. Someone with the handicap sign and they'll park half out of the space. And no one can park in front of them because it's technically a handicap space and as a neighbor, that would burn me. If I was in a tight block and the person with the handicap placard was parked half out of their space.
Well, we get it the other way too.
Right.
Person without the handicap placard has their whole trunk over
Right.
the line. They think the wheels are the
Yeah.
body line.
So do we have enough to get this ball rolling, Evan?
Absolutely, yep, yep, for sure.
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
That was a good
Anything
discussion.
else there?
No, I'm done.
Are you sure?
No.
You can. You can keep going, man.
Go ahead, Eric.
Keep it rolling, baby.
Okay. Hey, you know what? So you said, or I said, I agree with your discretion on that call. But in fact, we have an ordinance for double parking, so if somebody has to take somebody that's not a licensed driver and you enter that car, that person can double park, get that
20
person.
minutes.
So
20
we already have
minutes
laws,
is terrible.
we already have laws to take care of that. Or ordinances, I'll say.
Right.
So, I mean.
Do you want to encourage double parking?
No,
I guess it's
no,
like-
we do not.
do.
I just heard about it from a person the other day,
I
that
do.
2 were double parked and the street was blocked.
Yeah.
And there was a space open to park. And he
can't
had to
back
go
up.
around into the parking to get around this, that was on
Now
Walnut
that's
Street.
called quadruple parking.
Yeah.
That's illegal.
No, but I'm saying, you know, it's, I don't like redundant laws, and that's kind of redundant. Because you have that available to them. But.
But how convenient would it be, though, if you were double parked and had to maneuver maybe a wheelchair out there to get in a vehicle? It may not be as easy as
Or
it
safe.
sounds.
I'm not
Or
saying.
safe if you're in the street trying to
Yeah,
get a wheelchair up a ramp or something.
I don't know.
Yeah.
These buses do it every day.
Well, this leads us to a discussion that we had a while ago that I think we need to eventually look at seriously, and that is reactivating parking off the alleyways and get more of our residents to be able to park in the alleyway on their own lot and not have to park out front. And we do have the opportunity to increase
did
that.
talk
Not everyone
about
has
that.
it,
Yeah.
but I think we can increase that throughout town. That will help in a few neighborhoods.
All right, anything else on this? Comments, questions, concerns?
It's a good discussion.
Yes, it was. All right, Borough Council comments, Councilperson Bedard.
Text my gov.
Councilperson Fisher.
I would just like to say that communication was given to me that the comprehensive plan is or at least the first draft of the final copy is about ready to be distributed for the ad hoc committee and the planning commission. So it sounds like maybe we're on a path of getting that completed.
Councilperson Kaufman.
Spring cleanup, April
21.
21. It's Friday. Volunteers would be appreciated, but we're doing the borough cleanup in Columbia. And they're doing large items that day too, as well.
Yes.
Is it just large white items or is it also furniture?
Large white items, that sounds good.
No
I-
furniture.
I think any
Like,
large
well,
item
that's what they
that,
call the appliances.
I think it's any large item that doesn't fit inside a tote, you can put out and get it, or get a ticket for it.
Because I just saw someone asking online,
No TVs or computers.
Right, no electronics.
no electronics, but furniture.
But our teams will have flyers for families that have needs for electronics. We've already talked with the Solid Waste Authority, and they gave us flyers we can hand out that they can take them to the transfer station there on Harrisburg Avenue.
Right. And then obviously the obligatory. Text my go.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Jake and the crew, we have a resident, Ralph Finkel, just pointed out how nice his alley looks behind Walnut Street. And just wanted to thank Jake and, yeah, how much have we collected in the first few weeks of street sweeping there?
I was just working on getting them totals.
Okay.
It's probably 20 tons. It's gonna be less than what it's been because we didn't have the.
Didn't put the salt
the
and,
EMS skids stuff.
yeah, and I skid. Yep.
How was yard waste yesterday?
7 tons. Wasn't terrible, for the first day. I think the weather over the weekend kind of, especially Saturday, with the wind and stuff, so I expect it to be very busy starting.
Sweet.
Yeah. And text my gov if you need to know when the street sweeper runs.
Or yard waste.
Or yard waste.
I would like to share that the yearly audit is, complete. It's not completely signed and certified yet because there is an issue with Edmunds, technical glitch that didn't just affect us, it affected other clients as well. So as soon as that is resolved, we'll be able to get that certified, and I'll be meeting with the auditors, and we'll get them scheduled to come in and present the findings at a future meeting. So, thought that was good. And text my gov. And taco to go. All right, announcement of next meeting. At 7 PM on April 11th, council will hold a regularly scheduled meeting. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilperson Price, second by Councilperson Stahl, to adjourn at 7:52 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned.
Was it Taco to Go also has the best Rice Krispies ever?
Oh, yeah?
Really?